I am the one who knocks.
What does it really mean to break bad?
Some straight like you giant stick up his ass, all of a sudden at age, 60, he's just gonna break bad?
Breaking bad, to break bad, is an old Southern expression that I heard a lot growing up in my home state of Virginia. And what it means is to raise hell.
A man gets a cancer diagnosis and decides not to go quietly, but instead to raise hell, to cause trouble, to go wild, to make a real disturbance. Essentially, when we talk about breaking bad, we're talking about leaving behind moral and social norms, abandoning the law or ethics as constraints that stop us from doing what we feel like doing. Generally, when people think of the title Breaking Bad, they think of it purely as a description of Walter White's transformation into the evil Heisenberg. But if we look closer, we realize that Walt isn't the only one this title relates to. The motley crew of characters around Walt also break bad to some degree in one way or another.
I'm not saying it's not bad, it's bad, but it could be worse.
Strikingly, almost all of the featured characters on the show offer a mirror of Walt's journey in some way, whether they embody a form of evil he adopts along the way, a philosophy Walt uses to justify himself, or a different path Walt defines himself against. St. Augustine wrote that evil was just the absence of good, but in practice, wickedness takes all kinds of different forms and identities. While they range on a badness scale from flawed but decent to deeply evil, altogether the supporting characters of Breaking Bad yield an almost encyclopedic study of evil. So in this video, we'll look at the unique type of wrong that each of 7 supporting Breaking Bad characters brings to the table. We'll start with the most minor, seemingly harmless transgressors on the list, and work loosely towards the more serious forms of evil. A little like Dante descending through the circles of hell.
If you believe that there's a hell,
Before we go on, we want to share something important we've learned as a channel with digital content. Cybersecurity affects everyone. That's why we're big believers in this video's sponsor, NordVPN. No one's information is safe on the internet these days. You definitely need to be using a VPN or virtual private network to protect yourself online. And our favorite is NordVPN. Right now, they're offering a great deal to our viewers. Click the link in our description below, nordvpn.com/ScreenPrism, and use the code ScreenPrism to get 75% off a 3-year plan, plus a bonus month for free. That comes out to only $2.99 a month, so don't wait another moment to make your internet connection secure. Walter Jr. represents the wrong of ignorance. This kid's sins are more or less universal to teenagers. He's obscenely rude to his mother.
Why you gotta be such a bitch?
And interferes with her efforts to protect him.
It's my mom's fault. My dad, he is a great guy.
Everything remotely bad that Walter Jr. does stems from the fact that he does not know better. He's completely in the dark about his father's doings until the episode Ozymandias.
If this is true, then how could you keep this a secret?
As a result, he misunderstands most of what's going on between his parents and makes Skyler's life a lot more difficult. This seems like an innocent enough fault compared to the others on the list, but on the other hand, in Dante's Inferno, ignorance is one of the 3 blasts of Satan's wings in the center of hell, the inverse of God's omniscient or all-knowing nature. For Dante, sins of the intellect were punished even more severely than sins that were purely of the will. So, in other words, not knowing or understanding what you do, or believing in some false justification, doesn't get you off the hook.
I read online, she's not even allowed to be mad at you.
Within the story, Walter Jr., this lightest of sinners, represents us, the audience, and our willingness to explain away Walt's bad behavior.
Badass dad.
Long after we've been given plenty of reason to face the light about who Walt really is.
They say that you're some kind of drug dealer?
No, just come inside, please, now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make you a deal, Walt. I won't tell Hank, and I won't tell your children, or anybody else. Nobody will hear it from me.
Skyler White demonstrates the philosophy of necessary evil. She believes it is morally necessary for her to do bad things for the good of protecting her family. Skylar is a controversial character with audiences, so it's worth taking a moment to clarify what we're counting as her actual bad deeds. When the show aired, some judged her most for getting in Walt's way, but when Skylar is nagging her husband, she's still on a morally upright path. And when she sleeps with Ted, it's hard to condemn this as infidelity when Walt has already destroyed all trust in their marriage and used a combination of force and manipulation to prevent her from divorcing him. Instead, Skylar's transgressions of morality and law come when she decides to aid Walt. She helps cover up Walt's activities, suggests a money laundering scheme, cons Bogdan into selling the car wash,
U.S. Code Title 15, Chapter 53,
Subchapter 1.
Section 2606.
Satisfied?
and then does the actual laundering. Skylar breaks bad for one reason: to keep her family safe. The irony is that while Walt is always proclaiming that he's doing all this for the family, that is actually Skylar's priority.
Someone has to protect this family from the man who protects this family.
Initially, she wants nothing to do with Walt or his drug money.
I'm out, but I will provide for my family.
Not with that money.
But after the cousins attack Hank, Skylar sees how much danger she and her family are in.
Something tells me that Hank is here because of you.
From there on out, her priorities shift from doing what is right to doing what is best for her loved ones.
I don't want my son to find out that his father is a criminal.
So Skylar shows how easy it is for people who consider themselves virtuous to do bad things with the justification that there is no other way.
Why would you go along?
I'll be asking myself that for the rest of my life.
We see Walt using this logic of necessary evil all the time to rationalize his behavior, even though in his case, it's far less genuine over time.
Everything that I do, everything, I do it to protect this family.
So buying that car, that was protecting your family?
Damn. Chick's got an ass like an onion.
Hank Schrader is guilty of commonplace, everyday evil. As we discussed in our Hank video, this guy eventually becomes something of a hero in the show. But Hank, at the start, embodies the kind of mean, inconsiderate behavior we encounter all the time in mainstream society, like casual racism.
Hey, please, señor Sente! Hey, no de, please,
Sexism.
You ever smoke anything else, Wendy? Sausages don't count.
Bullying.
Hey, Sky, you got any more chicken?
Emerald here is gonna need a fresh pack. Bam!
And other obnoxious, dehumanizing treatment. So this early Hank represents societal evils expressed in small, commonplace ways.
Domi, go beat your piñata.
His tendency to stereotype and put people in boxes doesn't just make him unpleasant, it makes him less effective as a detective.
Hey, try rolling it, morons. It's a barrel. It rolls. Jesus.
It's a big part of why it takes him so long to catch Walt.
Another personal Walt, but you wouldn't know a criminal if he was close enough to check you for a hernia.
Even if any one of his transgressions isn't that big of a deal,
I want Shania Twain to give me a tuggy.
cumulatively they show that normalized, socially accepted unkindness can be insidious.
It's just heavy.
That's why they hire men. Hey, it's not gonna bite you, all right? Looks like Keith Richards with a glass of warm milk.
Just look at how deeply he gets under Walt's skin, feeding the spite and resentment that drives Walt to start in crime. Over time, while Hank overcomes this side of himself to become a better detective and a better man, we see Walt adopt this bullying, toxic behavior more and more.
Right now, what I need is for you to climb down out of my ass. Can you do that? Will you do that for me, honey?
The people who work here are like family. I can't let that all fall apart because of a couple of bad years.
Ted Beneke's type of wrongdoing is taking the easy way out. Skylar's boss, lover, and major pain in the neck might seem like a small fish troublemaker compared to the others we meet. Nevertheless, Ted commits major tax fraud that results in $617,000 worth of back taxes and fines. Ted wants to keep his dad's business afloat, so he takes a shortcut.
My priority is getting my business back. I'm putting my employees back on the payroll so they can pay their mortgages.
Right.
An illegal one. When confronted about the money he's hidden from the IRS, Ted refuses to hold himself accountable.
Maybe there's some way you could undo what's in there.
You want me to uncook your books?
He'd rather choose the easy path of denial.
What if your kids found out?
You know what? Truth is, I haven't thought that far ahead, Skylar.
Then, after Skylar gives Ted an actual way out by giving him money,
To the tune of $621,552.33.
instead of doing the right thing, he just does what makes him feel good.
Is that yours? Outside?
Blowing the cash on a fancy car.
You know, can't be driving a piece of crap to customer meetings. You got to present that successful image.
Ted represents how easy it is to slip into serious wrongdoing by refusing to analyze your actions and opting for shortcuts.
There will never be a better deal, Ted. The deal is you pay your back taxes, you pay your penalty, and you don't go to prison.
And this is exactly what we're seeing in Season 3 Walt, as he likewise gives in to flashy purchases, tortures Skylar with his inflated ego, and is in deep, deep denial about why he does what he does.
I am not a criminal. No offense to any people who are.
My husband is an illustrator, so we traveled a lot. Paris, Italy, Denmark.
Marie reflects the evil of ego, which we might argue is the core source of Walt's evil.
Say my name.
As we discussed in our Marie video, Marie is kind of a scaled-down version of Walt. She's spiteful, dishonest, self-obsessed, and megalomaniacal.
I'm sorry, but these scans are not that difficult to read. I could take one look at Waltz and tell you immediately how he's doing.
Most of us probably know someone like Marie, who's a narcissistic, selfish, and impulsive person, but essentially harmless.
I have aged shockingly well, haven't I?
Marie's worst qualities are kept in check by her loving relationship to Hank.
Do it now. Give her back.
But Walt takes this self-obsession to the extreme, demanding that the world bend to his will and causing innumerable casualties in the process.
We're done when I say we're done.
So while a little ego and self-centeredness is something most of us can forgive, if it's not tempered by positive forces like a moral code or a powerful love, this form of evil can rapidly grow out of control.
Consenting adults want what they want.
Gail Bedecker represents the evil of avoiding responsibility for your actions. The karaoke-loving chemist Gus recruits to create his lab is a timid, good-natured man with a genuine appreciation for opera, vegan cuisine, and famously, Walt Whitman's poetry.
When I heard the learned astronomer, when the proofs, the figures were ranged in columns before me.
He is a self-described libertarian.
I'm definitely a libertarian.
Which means he believes in political liberty and freedom of choice above all else. And while Gail leads a progressive, eco-conscious lifestyle, his political outlook allows him to feel no qualms about mass-producing highly addictive meth.
I'm not supplying it, they will get it somewhere else. At least with me, they're getting exactly what they pay for.
At first, Walt sees a kindred spirit in Gail.
I love the lab. Because it's all still magic.
And before he comes to see Gail as a threat, Walt likes this mirror of himself. He's a professional, intelligent chemist who makes it look perfectly civilized to engage in this kind of work.
Jumping through hoops, kissing the proper behinds, attending to all the non-chemistry that one finds oneself occupied by. You know that world.
Gail is a neat, sanitized, friendly version of a criminal, and he almost seems like an innocent, a man just doing a job he's been hired for, who doesn't really deserve to be taken out. But Gail reflects the falsehood of ignoring the consequences of your actions, pretending that evils you're participating in don't exist because you're not personally connected to the results of your labor. Just like everyone else in this ecosystem, Gail made the choice to engage in the highly damaging, dangerous, and illegal drug trade for profit. So Gale makes us think about the way that ideals that sound good in the abstract can be dangerous and ultimately evil if taken to their logical outcome in practice. Freedom of choice without any restraints leads to a society that fails to protect its citizens from boundless danger and greed.
Gale loses. Simple as that.
Jesse Pinkman represents evil that repents and wishes to be good. He genuinely cares about being good, even though he keeps getting pulled back into doing bad things.
It's gonna have to be you.
What? Jesse, do it now! Do it, bitch! Do it fast!
Jesse never stops punishing himself for all the bad things he's done. He even punishes himself for bad things that aren't his fault.
A friend who worked for me got murdered. It was my fault. I put him on that corner.
Jesse demonstrates the toll evil actions, both intentional and unintentional, take on a good person's soul.
I don't know what's wrong with me, Mr. White. I don't know how I could be so stupid.
But his remorse can't undo the destruction and death his actions have caused, so it doesn't make anything better. It only makes him suffer. Jesse's repentance serves to highlight Walt's growing darkness. And perhaps the fact that he embodies this repentant evil is one of the key reasons Walt keeps Jesse around. He likes to think that this desire for good is part of his makeup, when in reality, Walt declines to repent or suffer for his sins.
Really? I blame the government.
You either run from things or you face them.
In our next video, we're going from bad to worse, with 7 deadlier ways to break bad. We're going to look at the remaining supporting characters on Breaking Bad to decode the kinds of bad they embody and how they reflect Walt's moral descent.
Maybe your best course would be to tread lightly.
Hey guys, today's video is sponsored by a really important service that everybody needs to be using, NordVPN. Most of us use Wi-Fi hotspots daily, whether we're riding public transportation or sitting in cafes. And it's easy to forget these connections are far from safe and secure. Often they don't have any encryption at all, which means prying eyes can access your private information, login credentials, personal photos, and more. All of our content at Screen Prism is digital, so we've learned about cybersecurity. We don't want to take any chances when it comes to having our information stolen, and neither should you. So if you want to stay safe, you should use a VPN, a virtual private network. Basically, what a VPN does is make it like you're always on a private network, even when you're sending data across a public one. It sends your internet traffic through remote servers around the globe and hides your IP address, so you're always protected. NordVPN is by far the best option out there. They're the only VPN that got a perfect score from PC Mag. They offer double data encryption for increased anonymity, and they have a no data logging policy. And on top of all this added security, you don't have to compromise the quality of your internet browsing experience. NordVPN has super fast servers, and with just one account, you can connect as many as 6 devices simultaneously. They also provide 24/7 customer support. If you watch our videos, chances are you spend as much time online as we do. So start protecting your internet experience today. Click the link in our description below, nordvpn.com/screenprism, and use the code SCREENPRISM to get 75% off a 3-year plan, plus a bonus month thrown in for free. That comes out to only $2.99 a month, and what could be more worth it? So go to nordvpn.com/screenprism and check it out right now.